You may have never actually read this passage from the Bible, unless you've read the Bible from cover to cover. For mainline Protestants like us, it's a little embarrassing, or at least a little distasteful. What passage am I talking about? It is a passage from the final chapter of the Gospel of Mark, when the risen Christ meets with his disciples and charges them to spread the good news, and he promises to empower them for their mission. And in one verse, Jesus tells them that they will be able to pick up snakes in their hands. To this day, there are minor sects of Christians who actually do that. They collect venomous snakes and pick them up in worship. If it sounds weird to you, I'm right there with you. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. All during this week after Easter Sunday, I'm walking through the resurrection appearances of Jesus throughout the four Gospels. On Sunday, I read the account of the empty tomb in Mark's Gospel and included a portion of his resurrection appearance to the 11 disciples. I didn't read the whole story because I didn't want the focus to be on snake handling, as it almost certainly would have been. But it is important nonetheless to read this passage and to try to gain some insight into why Mark recorded these words when none of the other gospel writers did. Beginning with the verse I ended on Sunday, here's Mark's account of the resurrection appearance. He later appeared to the 11 themselves as they were sitting at the table, and he upbraided them for their lack of faith and stubbornness because they had not believed those who saw him after he had risen. And he said to them, "Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole creation. The one who believes and is baptized will be saved, but the one who does not believe will be condemned. And these signs will accompany those who believe. By using my name, they will cast out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up snakes in their hands, and if they drink any deadly thing, it will not hurt them. They will lay their hands on the sick, and they will recover." So the first thing to notice here is the sense that the disciples had a hard time believing. While that seems strange to us, and while we can think of these disciples as a bit obtuse, it's really understandable. We think of the resurrection as settled fact. They were faced with it as a brand new reality. It took time for this new reality to sink in. It would take years for the disciples and the early church to work out all of what it meant. Second, notice that Jesus commissions them for a particular task, to proclaim the good news into the whole world. As we saw yesterday at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus charged them in much the same way here. Matthew's account just happens to be a little more lyrical, and in this way easier to remember. Mark's version just seems a little flat by comparison. But the command is essentially the same: proclaim the good news throughout the world. But it is the terms by which Jesus empowers them here in Mark's account that are so remarkable. Casting out demons, speaking in new tongues, handling snakes, immunity from poison, and acts of healing. We see a few of these things promised elsewhere, but it is only here that we hear of snake handling. There is one passage in Luke where Jesus tells his disciples that they'll be able to tread on snakes and scorpions without being harmed, but in Luke, this is not what Jesus says after the resurrection. Rather, it's what he says to them after they have returned from a preaching mission in the villages around Galilee. Notice what this is all about, though. These are signs, indicators of the power of Christ's name. And like all signs, it's not the signs themselves that are important, but what they signify, what they point to. And in this case, they point to the power of faith in Jesus Christ and to the new reality that has come into the world through the resurrection of Jesus. The signs themselves are simply pointers with no particular value in and of themselves. All of which then leads us to the obvious question: Are we supposed to take this seriously? And if so, what relevance does it have for us today? Well, to a very small subset of Christians, mostly Pentecostals scattered in parts of rural Appalachia, this is a definite mandate to handle venomous snakes. But to the vast majority of the Christian world, both now and throughout history, the emphasis in this passage is not on the signs, but on the commission to spread the gospel. That command, and not the signs, remains absolutely relevant to us even today. It is one of the animating forces that defines what the church is and what it does. Whether through direct witness or through acts of kindness and charity, the church continues to bear witness to the good news of the redeeming and reconciling love in Jesus Christ. So don't worry, you don't have to handle snakes to be a faithful Christian. Whew! Tomorrow, a funny thing happened on the road to Emmaus. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.